What is going on, YouTube? Today we're going to be looking at what the Cessna Mustang and Ford Mustang actually have in common. And you are watching Relative Motion, the channel all about showing you the most interesting places on the planet and the best means to get you there. And this is going to be the third episode where we're taking a look at the best light jets on the planet. And the Cessna Mustang is certainly going to be at the top of that list, because this was a very successful jet, and there's almost 500 of these flying around. And in this video, we're going to go over some of the awesome features that the Cessna Mustang has to offer. So the similarity I think that exists between the Ford Mustang and the Cessna Mustang is mostly just in spirit, but I still think this is a strong comparison, because what the Ford company is to the automotive industry is very similar to what I would say the Cessna company is to the aviation industry. And to me, this is because they both make similar product lines in those industries. Ford makes small cheap cars all the way up to very high performance supercars, and everything in between, like trucks and crossovers. And I certainly believe the Cessna company makes a very similar product line, but just in the world of aviation. Because they make tiny airplanes all the way down from the Cessna 152, which is a very light two-seat aircraft, all the way up to the Citation X, which I have already mentioned on this channel before, because this is certainly one of my all-time favorite private jets. And I think you can compare this to Ford's highest performance car, the Ford GT. And then where the similarity comes in between the Ford Mustang and the Cessna Mustang is because I would say the Ford Mustang is an entry point into the world of sports cars, just like the Cessna Mustang is an entry point into the world of jets, especially since these had such a good run and are fairly available. The Cessna Mustang was made for a fairly short time, but they sure made a lot of them in this period. These were made from 2006 to 2017. They discontinued the Cessna Mustang, and you can now buy a very similar aircraft, the Cessna M2, which is slightly larger, and the Cessna M2 is part of the very successful and large family of Cessna's CJ line, otherwise known as Citation jets. However, these are different from regular Citation series jets, like the Citation X, which I talked about earlier. I do think, though, one of the interesting features of the Cessna Mustang is definitely its windows, because I've always thought these Mustang windows really resemble the very well-known Gulfstream windows on Gulfstream private jets. And I do think this is pretty cool, considering Gulfstream is probably the pinnacle of private jets. So you'd have one of the only other private jets that someone might even mistake for a Gulfstream, although that's not very probable, especially since these are fairly well known in the world of aviation. And the other cool part of having these oval windows is I do think they offer a better view looking out. And I don't normally talk about this, but especially on this jet, these windows line up really well with the passenger seats, having the middle out of the three windows right on the table between the passengers. And the seating in the Cessna Mustang is fairly unique, because it has an almost lounge chair or couch in the back for two passengers. It is actually divided and has a couple cup holders between them, but it is built in such a way that you can lay across it, and even has an armrest that you would put up, really similar to the back bench seat in an SUV. So it's certainly a unique seat to see in a private jet. And then the other really interesting and almost hilarious thing I think about the layout of this particular jet is this might be what I would consider one of the only private aircraft that almost has a toilet in the cockpit. Now, I am by no means suggesting this, first and not only because I'm pretty sure this isn't even legal, but if you took this divider out, if you were the only one in the aircraft, I would imagine you could almost put this aircraft on autopilot and use the toilet, still well being within visual sight of all your instruments to know what's going on. But you know me, I gotta always explore the crazy ideas in these videos. Now, the last interesting feature that there is about the Cessna Mustang is, like I was just talking about, flying this by yourself. That is actually probably the most common use for this, since it is a single pilot certified jet, and even though that back couch looks pretty comfortable, this jet being so small, it's probably still going to be pretty tight back there, while the cockpit is potentially going to be a little roomier, which of course is where you're going to be sitting if you're flying around. So that is where you would want the comfort to be. And most interesting about the cockpit is this is probably the only cockpit I've ever seen. It actually has wood grain trim in it, which certainly I think really keeps to the spirit of this thing being a private jet that you fly yourself. Although I'm actually not entirely sure that wood grain is real. But if you're looking for a really great light jet, you're really not going to go wrong with the Cessna Mustang. Now, if any of the jets that I mentioned in this video sound interesting, and you made it to the end of this video, I'd really hope you consider subscribing below, which is a great way to help more videos about those jets I mentioned in this video come your way. And until I see you next time, I'm James Cooper, and you've been watching Relative Motion.